AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Raising Cane studio.
Let's rock!
Hour 2 off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. It's AFR. Presented by Relief Windows. I'm Matt.
You're a loser, Matt!
Shut up, kid. Paul O'Neill.
They're chanting Paul O'Neill's name.
Yusuf. And Mr. Toby Tom Blake. All right, we're here. Glad you are as well. Get out there and make it a good one. Hope everybody's doing all right with the weather. I think largely Baton Rouge in the southern part of the state was spared the worst, but I know everybody in the northern part of the state and parts of Mississippi and all over the region are really fighting it. So to everybody who's there without power or dealing with damaged property, hopefully no loss of life. So hope everybody's safe out there and praying for you and that everybody gets through this event safely. But just a sunny, beautiful day, cold in Baton Rouge, but regular old day where not many people were doing much because they called off school and closed buildings and all that sort of stuff. But pretty easy day around here. So glad you're hanging out with us, man, wherever you may be. It is after further review. I was talking just briefly about Sean Payton's decision not to kick the field goal there in the first half to go up 10-0. And we're talking about why coaches hate points. And Greg sent a text that field goals in the red zone are viewed as -4 on the scoreboard as opposed to +3. I've never heard anybody say that. Maybe that is the mindset that some have. But again, you can't assume the touchdown, and it's fair to say you can't assume the field goal. It is a field goal attempt. But in the NFL, if you're there inside of the 20-yard line, you're talking about a kick inside of 40 yards. That's a PAT. It should be automatic for these teams, or for these kickers. There was another one where Brett said NBA points have never been higher. NFL offense is also higher. Why would they go back to prioritizing field goals? I didn't say prioritize field goals, Brett. I didn't say prioritize field goals. In a situation where you have the opportunity to score, you're prioritizing scoring. You're not prioritizing field goals. You're prioritizing points. In a situation where you can get points, affect the scoreboard, affect a game, you take the points. And in this instance, it proved to be, again, an instance where and there's so many instances, too, that people don't talk about, like where you chase points early in a game, you're going for 2, where it's unnecessary. And had you kick the PAT, maybe later in the game, a field goal ties it instead of having to go for a touchdown, or whatever the case may be. So the bottom line is, I know not everybody is going to agree with me. But it's, there's you see similar instances in other sports, certainly. Someone mentioned there the proliferation of the three-point shot in the NBA. You just don't see mid-range jumpers anymore. It's either dunks or threes. Like, that's largely what the game has become because the analytics have proven rather sit out there and shoot a shot that can give you 3 points as opposed to working harder to get for a shot to give you 2 points. It's same thing in baseball. Strikeouts have never been higher. We're at an all-time records for strikeouts because most hitters, are not interested in walks and singles. they're interested in home runs. You'll take 1 for 5 with 4 strikeouts if the one is a 3-run homer. It's a different way to accumulate offense, but it's something that you just see more in the game today. So I don't think me talking about this is going to change it, but it was a very clear example on Sunday where Sean Payton had an opportunity to go up 2 scores early in that game with a backup quarterback, knowing the weather was coming, chose to be aggressive, went for it, didn't make it, and it bit him. His team didn't score again. It cost him an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl. All right, it's after further review. We're glad to have you hanging out with us here. Speaking of the Super Bowl is 2 weeks away. The Senior Bowl is this week. A little perspective on Mobile here in just a quick second. We are brought to you by South Point Volkswagen, southpointvw.com. New and certified pre-owned in Baton Rouge and online at southpointvw.com, southpointvw.com. Actually was over at South Point last week. Got to see Mr. Bill, Brad, Mr. Carey, the whole crew over there at South Point Volkswagen. And man, the selection right now is awesome. 26s are on the lot. If we're talking about Atlas Cross Sport, the Taos, they got so much inventory. So whatever you're looking for, if it's a midsize SUV, the full-size SUV, the sedan, they got you over at South Point Volkswagen. Style, feel, performance of luxury, the great safety features, and you're going to get it at a great price as well. Manufactured right here in the U.S. of A. So some people worry about tariffs. You don't have to worry about tariffs because they're manufactured in their Chattanooga, Tennessee plant, so you're supporting American jobs as well. South Point Volkswagen. SouthPointVW.com. South Point Volkswagen. What's your direction? All this week, Flynn and Hester on Off the Bench, they'll be broadcasting live from Mobile for the Senior Bowl, Monday through Thursday, I should say, this week. And they'll be going to the practices in the afternoons to give reports and talking to a lot of the players and coaches and administrators over in Mobile as we gear up for the draft. So what you're seeing this week is a lot of pre-Senior Bowl mock drafts that are dropping. There's 2 in particular today that I wanted to highlight. One from Daniel Jeremiah at NFL Network, and the other was one from Pro Football Focus. The consensus, really unanimous, number 1 overall pick is Fernando Mendoza to the Raiders. But what was interesting about this one from Daniel Jeremiah, first of all, he did have Mansour Delane. This is the highest I've seen Mansour Delane mocked. He had Mansour Delane mocked 5th overall to the New York Giants. One spot ahead of David Bailey from Texas Tech going to Cleveland. So Mansour Delane, 5 overall, that would be amazing for Delane if, in fact, he goes that high. And I've said repeatedly, for me, with the Saints picking 8, there's really 3 positions I'm looking at. It's wide receiver, edge rusher, cornerback. If you can get any one of those at an elite level, you do it. But we're starting to see more and more of this in mock drafts. Daniel Jeremiah has the New Orleans Saints taking running back Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame at 8 overall. He says, I love, no pun intended, the idea of pairing Tyler Shuck with the most electric playmaker in the draft. I will respectfully disagree with Daniel Jeremiah, but it's not just Daniel Jeremiah. The folks over at PFF, in this case it's Dalton Wasserman, has his mock draft up as well, and he also has the New Orleans Saints at 8 overall, taking Notre Dame running back Jeremiah Love. Noting the Saints were 31st in the NFL in their rushing grade this season from PFF, and with Kamara about to be 31 years old, obviously it would be an explosive back in the backfield. Listen, if you've followed this show for any length of time, you know how I feel about this and where I'm going with this. I despise the idea of taking a running back with a top 10 pick. And that is not to suggest that Jeremiah Love is an overrated player. It is only to suggest that a running back in the NFL has been devalued, rightly so, that you can get value at running back in the NFL without using a top 10 pick on that player. I would rather get a player that can affect the game singularly using the 8th overall pick instead of taking a player that relies heavily on other players for their success. What I mean is, you look at Ashton Genty this year. Ashton Genty was a top 5 pick of the Raiders, and the Raiders were the worst team in the NFL. And you can say, well, that's not Ashton Genty's fault. And you're right. It's not Ashton Genty's fault that the Raiders were the worst team in the NFL this year. So, too, is it true that without a quarterback, and a good offensive line, it doesn't matter who your running back is. So, and with seeing running backs' careers shortened, it also just illustrates even further why you shouldn't invest that type of resource in a running back. I mean, you look at the NFL this year, and the rushing leaders, I mean, James Cook led the NFL in rushing this year. Derrick Henry, who was a first-round pick, was second. Jonathan Taylor, Bijan Robinson, Devon Achane, Kyron Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs, 7th, McCaffrey, 8th, Javonte Williams, and Saquon, 10th. I guess my point is I could look at James Cook. I could look at Achane and Kyron Williams, Javonte Williams. Like, these aren't guys that were top 10 picks in the NFL draft. You know, the Derrick Henry going in round 1 or Christian McCaffrey being a top 10 pick and having the staying power and longevity that he has at a high level, those are the exception, not the rule. I mean, we saw New Orleans with a makeshift offensive line, a rookie quarterback, and practice squad players at receiver have a competent running game with Audric Estime. That's not to suggest that Estime is a better option than Jeremiah Love, but it is to suggest I can find a viable running back option that can produce while using a top 10 pick on a player at a position where I can't find that type of value later in the draft. So if you can get the best corner or a top 10 edge rusher or a top 10 pick at receiver, you're not going to necessarily find that level of productivity when you pick at the top of round 2 or further in the draft. So I know we're going to see this more and more and more because of the Saints' issues at running back with people projecting Jeremiah Love to New Orleans. I think there are better options in free agency or later in the draft for New Orleans than using the 8th overall pick for Jeremiah Love. But that's a conversation we're going to have a lot between now and April's draft, and you're going to hear me say that over and over and over and over again. All right, it's After Further Review, y'all. We're brought to you by Arco Power Systems, arco.com, arco.com, ARCCO, arco.com. You know, unfortunately, with the weather that's come through here this weekend, it is a reminder of the necessity of a business like Arco. I mean, so many homes and businesses right now are left without power. Now, with Arco, remember, we're not talking about home standby generators. These are Generac industrial generators, standby generators for your business, for your commercial or industrial facility. Whatever type of business that you're in, if it's the industrial sector, if it's grocery stores or gas stations or banks or schools or hospitals or any type of municipality, you need critical backup energy solutions when the storm hits, be it a hurricane or an ice storm, whatever's going to knock out the power, you have to have options to stay online for your business. That's what Arco does. And they do it for a gigantic footprint. Home base is right here in Baton Rouge on Airline Highway near I-12, but Arco services a giant footprint, a multi-state footprint. North to Little Rock, east to Mobile, west to San Antonio. Draw a big circle in that footprint. Arco Power Systems can serve you. You know, if this storm, this inclement weather, has served as a reminder of the need for critical backup energy and power solutions, you need Arco. It's time to make that call. Arco.com, arco.com, ARCCO, arco.com. Okay, y'all, it is After Further Review. Glad to have you hanging out with us here as we roll on through this Monday edition of AFR. By the way, in hour number 3, I'm talking about Jeremiah Love, me not wanting the Saints to use a top 10 pick on Jeremiah Love. There is a free agent, a pending free agent, that I think the Saints should target. And I will get to that coming up in 1 hour and why I think that makes a lot of sense. So that is coming up here on the show today. I'm not just going to criticize. I'm actually going to give you another option. Let me knock out a quick break. Now that the draft deadline has passed for underclassmen to enter the draft, and in the portal, most of the dust has settled, I want to take a view of what rosters were most affected by the draft and by the portal. We'll kind of look at that, and a couple of them that LSU actually plays coming up this fall. We'll talk about it as we continue here. It's AFR.
AFR.
Man, my guy Darren James just keeps on hanging banners. I mean, every time a new award is doled out, you better believe Darren's going to be at the top of it. LPT Realty 2026, the top nationwide realtor at the fastest growing brokerage in history. Are you kidding me? Unbelievable. Top local mail marketing realtor, MAIL, by the way. Top digital marketing realtor at LPT nationally. The top producing realtor both in Denham Springs and Baton Rouge and all over Louisiana. The number one realtor for LPT in the state of Louisiana. Absolutely incredible. Darren just keeps hanging banners, collecting awards, and the proof's in the pudding. If you need to sell your home, you need the realtor that sells more homes than anyone with the best strategies to implement. You need Darren James. Agent225.com.
Think real estate, think Darren James.
After further review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding, and we do shutters too.
.1045 ESPN Baton Rouge and Citizens Bank and Trust want to cover your car payments. Enter to win $5,000 plus a bonus shot at 6 months of Benny's Car Wash. You can get extra entries by subscribing to our Louisiana.net daily newsletter.
LouisianaSports.net.
It's free. Enter now at 1045ESPN.com.
You said Louisiana.net.
Oh,
that's not the website.
No, LouisianaSports.net.
That's the one. Yeah, that's
daily newsletter.
That's the one you want, not Louisiana.net. I don't even know what Louisiana.net will bring you to.
You
not our website.
You should have already subscribed to that, but if you haven't, now it could earn you free car payments.
That'd be a good thing to do.
There you go.
Get you some free car payments. Get you some free car payments, y'all, at LouisianaSports.net. That might have confused people, just like some Ole Miss fans were confused on Saturday. Some people can't be helped, and some people just want to be pissed off at things. So I got word on Saturday that LSU added another assistant to Lane Kiffin's staff. They've added Fred McAfee as the assistant running backs coach under Kevin Smith. So we reported this over at LouisianaSports.net, and I put out a tweet saying as much. The tweet that I put out read, and I was very careful with how I worded this tweet because, as you might imagine, being that there is a former New Orleans Saints running back by the same name, there might be some people confused if I just put Fred McAfee, because people would assume that Fred McAfee was the former Saints running back, but that's not who it is. It's his son, who was an Ole Miss running back from 2021 to 2023, who has the same name, spent last year on staff at Ole Miss under Kevin Smith. So I tweeted, former Ole Miss running back Fred McAfee is joining the LSU staff as an assistant running backs coach to Kevin Smith, source confirms. And I also add, he is the son of former Saints running back Fred McAfee. Oh, the horror. Literally the first comment from Joe King. Here you go. Here it is. Paula, you can pull it up. Joe King, Ole Miss. He played at Mississippi College. Do better research, Matt. Damn ridiculous. Define irony. Idiot blaming me for not doing research in a tweet illustrating his lack of research or his inability to just read. I literally said he is the son of former Saints running back Fred McAfee. Yes, former Saints running back Fred McAfee went to Mississippi College. His son, Fred McAfee, the one who played at Ole Miss and is joining LSU staff, played at Ole Miss and is joining LSU staff. Idiots. Joe King at Ole Miss King on Twitter. You're an idiot. Like, I don't know how I'm going to make it to September with all the Ole Miss people. Like, the lion's share of the reaction to that was, why you got to say Ole Miss? Because I have to clarify which Fred McAfee it is. It doesn't stand to reason I could only put Fred McAfee because people would be confused like that idiot was confused. And I haven't put in the tweet that it was the other Fred McAfee. God. Somebody asked me today, like, Who do you think Ole Miss is going to be cheering for when LSU plays Clemson in the opening weekend? I don't know. I mean, you got Dabo out there pile driving Pete Golding, reading receipts. They hate him now. And, of course, they hate Lane Kiffin. Boy, I mean, this massive amount of penis envy from Ole Miss fans, the collective Ole Miss fan base, is just stunning to me. It shouldn't be because, like, when you've been a runt for 6 decades, been an also-ran, have not won a conference title in more than 60, not national, they have not won a conference title in 6 decades. And they didn't even win the conference. They didn't even go to Atlanta. They have never played in the SEC championship game. Congrats. Ole Miss, Vandy, Kentucky. Bro, South Carolina, Mizzou, and Mississippi State and Arkansas have been there. Like, you suck. You've sucked a long time. For 6 decades. You taste a modicum of success for a year. And boy, they just don't know how to handle it. And my goodness, like, I don't want to just see LSU win that game in September. I want LSU to steamroll, dump truck, embarrass every single ounce of that entire fan base. Program everything in September. I mean, I realize you got bigger fish to fry. You're trying to make a playoff. You just made this massive investment. But my goodness, those people are insufferable. And it's rooted in the fact that they're not used to success. Like, they don't know what that feels like. And so even things as simple as a tiny report about an assistant running back coach triggers them. And it's just annoying. Like, I think I'm just venting here. You probably don't care. But God, is it like 85% of my Twitter mentions now are just Ole Miss fans bitching. And it is so annoying. Like, I am ready for that program to be reduced once again to the irrelevance with which they have existed over the last 6 decades. Like, go away and don't matter at all. Like, and I have no doubt that's where Pete Golding is going to land them. Either that or on probation or something like that, for all the stuff, but whatever. Fred McAfee, son of former Saints running back Fred McAfee, has joined the LSU staff. So too has Georgia offensive assistant Ty Hatcher. I think Football Scoop was the first to report that. So Hatcher, 25 years old, worked with Charlie Weiss, or will work with Charlie Weiss, assist with the quarterbacks, tight ends, all that stuff. He was on Kirby Smart's staff, helping with the offense over there. So a couple of offensive additions over the weekend to Lane Kiffin's staff. All right, it's After Further Review, brought to you by the Williamson Eye Center. 924-2020, 924-2020, 924-2020. If you want to see 2020, call 924-2020 for the Williamson Eye Center. Remember, refractive surgery is more than just LASIK. If years ago you were told you're not a candidate for LASIK, okay. Well, that procedure has advanced so much over the years. But even beyond that, there's LASIK, there's PRK. If you're nearsighted or farsighted, there's EVO ICL, which is the implantable contact lens. There's a custom lens replacement. There's so many options, which is why I always tell you, no matter your age or your refractive issue, the Williamson Eye Center can help. Just go for that consultation. 924-2020, 924-2020, 924-2020, or online at williamsoneye.com, williamsoneye.com. All right, it is After Further Review. I didn't intend to go on that diatribe there. Sometimes it happens. Let me break so I stay on time. I do want to talk about this because now that the portal cycle is sort of slowed and we know collectively which players have left school early for the draft. Like, for example, Fernando Mendoza at Indiana. That's a really, really significant one, a player that's left early for the NFL draft. There's a couple of teams that LSU plays this fall that are sort of ranked among the teams hardest hit by early entries to the draft. So I want to talk about that as we continue. Stay here. It's AFR.
AFR.
Had a call earlier today from my friends over at Rev, and it was a local Rev call center because they are local. Rev has been local for 90 years. As we switch now at our home, I've told you before, here at Guarantee Media, we're Rev customers. At Parish Construction Roofing, we're Rev customers. Well, Rev just now laid fiber in my neighborhood so we can switch to their fiber internet, which I'm fired up for. Power goes out, your storm comes, power goes out, whatever the case may be, and you lose internet, that stinks. Well, you don't have to worry about that because Rev, when they have the all-fiber network that's buried under the ground, so you don't have to worry about a tree limb snapping, falling on a cable, something like that, or winds blowing it over and knocking out your internet. Everything's buried under the ground. So you'll always have high-speed internet up to 5 gigs backed by an all-fiber network and 90 years of local service. It's Rev, R-E-V. Go to the website. Check them out there. 70,000 Louisiana business and homeowners. Trust them. Let'sRev.com.
After further review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding, and we do shutters too.
Always appreciate Brandon Holly and the gang over Relief Windows. Got to see Brandon and Adrian this weekend, man. We had the Guarantee 100 party. Guarantee Corp turned 100 years old last Monday, the 19th, and Saturday at a giant party celebration of 100 years of serving Louisiana and our local communities. And just an amazing night, man. The Foster family, they've been locally owned and operated now. Our president and CEO is Flynn Foster, third-generation owner, operator, and his sons, Luke and Landon, are now working in the business, and one day will be fourth-generation owners of this company. And just an amazing Louisiana success story. His grandfather, Flynn's grandfather, Mr. Foster, Mr. George Foster Sr., started Guarantee Corp. Or Guarantee, at the time, Gillico, Guarantee Income Life Insurance Company, in 1926 during the Great Depression. And fascinating man, was a Louisiana state senator, knew Huey and Earl Long, and lived a great life. His son, George Jr., who we all affectionately refer to as Mr. Foster, really just grew and expanded Guarantee, brought Guarantee into media when they bought WAFB, the television station, back in the 1960s, then bought radio stations, and now what we know today as Guarantee Media. But just a remarkable success story. Glad to be able to be a very small part of the century of success, and looking forward to the next, being part of the next century for Guarantee Corp. So great weekend over at LeBears. We're celebrating again. Got to see Brandon and Adrian Holly this weekend. They were there. So great partners of ours for many years here on After Further Review and on here at all of our properties at Guarantee Media with Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com. So the many rosters are really set now for next season. For college football, the deadline for early entries to the draft is passed. For all intents and purposes, the portal is done. There could certainly still be portal ads, right? You don't have to. A student athlete doesn't have to make their transfer decision by the time the portal closes. We've seen that portal window is just the opportunity for players to enter the portal. But for all intents and purposes, most portal decisions have been made that will dramatically affect rosters. There is no spring portal window. There is a February signing day for high school, so you could still add 2026 prospects in the February window. But by and large, rosters as far as impact players are set right now. And so it was interesting to stumble across this where our friends over at CBS kind of took a look at the programs that were most affected by early entrants to the draft. Ohio State was really among the most affected. Indiana with, Fernando Mendoza, Omar Cooper, Carter Smith on the offensive line, D'Angelo Pons, their great cornerback, all leaving early for the draft. Miami, Francis Mauinoa, Reuben Bain, some really significant ones. But there were two on this list that LSU plays in 2026, so that's certainly irrelevant here. And one of them is LSU's season opener in Clemson. So Clemson, not only does Cade Klubnik leave for the NFL draft, and Klubnik could have come back for a fifth season, but Klubnik's off to the NFL. Well, Peter Woods, T.J. Parker, the defensive lineman that we talked about much leading up to that game, they both, as expected, left for the draft. Avion Terrell, who is going to be one of the first cornerbacks taken, also gone, as is wide receiver Antonio Williams. So you have Clemson coming off a 7-6 season, losing Woods, Terrell, Parker, Williams, and of course losing Cade Klubnik as well. And Clemson's transfer portal class is ranked 72nd. Like Dabo, as we know, like I'm not breaking news to you, Dabo just hasn't been a proponent of the transfer portal. It's just not something he wants to use to build his roster, and it's going to be to his detriment and I believe ultimately his demise there at Clemson, because this is the way that rosters are being built. And even still, this is a little bit of a dipping your toe in the water. They're 72nd. They added 9 transfers this year. And, for 25, when they added a couple, that was their first foray. Will Helt from Purdue, the edge rusher, was kind of the big addition that they had. So 9 this year. So they're moving in that direction, but it's still not nearly enough to compensate. So you're going to have a green quarterback losing a ton of talent to the NFL, coming off a 7-6 season. LSU, that season opener in Baton Rouge. I'm not trying to predict and preview a game that's 8 months away, but just as an illustration where Clemson maybe later in the season, as a lot of their new players gain more experience, might be better later. You catch them at a really good time, catching them week 1. Now the other is a team you do catch later in the season that may actually benefit that team, but it's still going to be fascinating to see what happens at quarterback in Knoxville. So Tennessee is the other LSU opponent that made this list of the teams most affected by early entries to the draft. So Jermon McCoy, who didn't play this year because of injury, but is a guy who is projected potentially to be the first cornerback off the board in this year's draft. Chris Brazzell, the wide receiver, Colton Hood, their other cornerback, Arion Carter, linebacker, a lot of defensive players there coming off the board who have left early from Tennessee. So we'll see, as Josh Heupel goes into year 6, but that's going to be a fascinating trip for LSU. I've been asked a couple of times, by people. I was doing Morning Scone today, and someone asked me, hey, I'm going to make it into Baton Rouge for one game this year. Which game should I go to? And this is an epic home schedule for LSU. You're playing a 9th league game, and so you're going to have really an awesome SEC schedule, and you add Clemson. So in addition to Clemson, A&M comes to Baton Rouge again this year. You're going to have Alabama come to Baton Rouge, Texas come to Baton Rouge. It is going to be an awesome home schedule. State makes their return to Baton Rouge. And so that'll be interesting to see what they look like with Kamario Taylor. Really is the full-time starter this year. But anyway, there's 2 ways to look at it. The season opener, when Clemson comes to Baton Rouge, is going to be a whole scene. I mean, Labor Day weekend, all the build-up to this season, the opener of the Kiffin era, Dabo and Clemson coming in, returning that trip, and LSU's going to be favored in the game. Like, that is going to be a scene. That is going to be a plum madhouse. And LSU should win that game. So that's the fail-proof. Like, that's if you're looking for the great environment, that's the can't miss. But if LSU cooperates and gets to November playing meaningful football, those home games against Alabama and Texas are going to be full throat, peak Death Valley, because you're actually playing for playoff seeding, all that sort of stuff by the time you get to November. So they got to cooperate. Now you stub your toe a couple of times along the way. You drop a home game to A&M, maybe you lose at Ole Miss, whatever, God forbid, but you drop a couple, then you got to play at Auburn. Maiden voyage for Alex Golish, but Jordan Hare is never an easy place to play. There are booby traps and landmines all over there. So by the time you get to November, it could be a little bit of a let the air out of the balloon if you get to that game against Texas and you've lost 2 or 3 times, right? Now, knock on for Mike, I hope that doesn't happen. But either way, like, this is why for years I've always advocated for getting rid of the crap games nobody wants to see. Look at what the schedule looks like, man. It's going to be phenomenal. Phenomenal theater up and down the schedule to watch. So, in any event, Clemson, Tennessee, 2 of the teams most affected by early entries to the draft. and neither crushed it in the portal. I mentioned Clemson as the 72nd ranked class, Tennessee the 22nd ranked transfer portal class, and they still got a big question at quarterback to see what's going to happen there with Joey Aguilar. If he doesn't get a TRO or an injunction to be able to play another year, they'll have more turnover there at quarterback, and that's a program that they added 21 commitments via the transfer portal, but they swung and missed on the elite level quarterbacks in this portal cycle. They went after Sam Leavitt, he picked LSU. They went after Brendan Sorsby, he picked Texas Tech. They added so their addition was Ryan Staub, right? Who is the backup at Colorado this year. So that's if Ryan Staub does become the starter at Tennessee, he will be still a first-time starting quarterback there in Knoxville. So a few things to keep an eye on here as we sort of take the 10,000-foot view of the college football landscape here as the portal cycle is slowing down. All right, it's After Further Review. We're brought to you by Rouse's, official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Rouse's.com, Rouse's.com. Check out our friends over at Rouse's. Man, I saw earlier today, every week they keep introducing, they're opening 2 new stores for 5 straight weeks over at Rouse's. I think today was Mandeville. I'm trying to check their Facebook page to make sure I got that correct. But, last week we were over in Gramercy. The week before they were near us in Central. Just saw this. They're hiring for their Hattiesburg store as well. So check them out over at Rouse's, the official supermarket. Yeah, there it is. 7 hours ago, open in Mandeville. Open daily 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. So shout out to our friends on the North Shore. They are open now at Rouse's in Mandeville. You can get all the deets there on their Facebook page or their social media. You can always go to Rouse's.com, Rouse's.com, with 76 locations now at Rouse's.com, Rouse's.com. Get your king cakes, beautiful floral department at that location there as well. There's all the king cakes. My goodness. Just like as far as the eye can see, king cakes for days at Rouse's. And you can ship your king cake anywhere in the lower 48. So get to the website at Rouse's.com, Rouse's.com. Rouse's, this feels like home. All right, y'all cruising along here, man. Muse will do Tigers and the Pros to wrap up hour number 2. When we come back, Jimmy will be here for Otterlocks 1 hour from right now. Otterlocks are already posted over at LouisianaSports.net if you want to get a jump start on them. Let me knock out a quick break. We'll come back and wrap up hour number 2 on AFR.
AFR.
Well, this is one of those... hate to say I told you so, but I've been telling you for months to call River City's 1 Hour Air, get your heater safety check. And hopefully with these temps, well, right now it's 35 degrees. We're getting back down into the 20s tonight, but hopefully your heater is cooperating. I'd hate to think of our friends and neighbors going through a freeze like this and not having your heater operating and functioning appropriately. But listen, when we come through this, or if you're having issues right now, call our friends at River City's 1 Hour Air, 752-0001, 752-0001, 752-0001, or 1hourbr.com. You can spell it out, O-N-E, 1hourbr.com. Their technicians will always come out nights and weekends, so if you're having issues with your heater, give our friends at River City's 1 Hour Air a call, 752-0001, for River City's 1 Hour Air, where they're always on time or you don't pay a dime.
After Further Review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding. And we do shutters too.
Super Bowl 60 is set. Excited, man. Next week, we'll be there on Radio Row in San Francisco. Not for the full week. We're going to fly out on Tuesday. We'll be doing AFR from Radio Row. It's Super Bowl Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So we'll get there early enough Tuesday to start getting you some content. But Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, AFR from Radio Row in San Francisco. We're looking forward to it. We did the full 5 days in New Orleans this past year. I think what we learned was Monday was pretty slow. Tuesday was a little better than Monday, but Wednesday was like, oh, okay, this is what everyone talks about. Wednesday was the day when everybody sort of descended upon New Orleans, and it was just building to a crescendo into the weekend with the game. So excited about it, man. We'll be wheels up on Tuesday to do AFR starting on Wednesday from Radio Row out in San Francisco. First odds are out. By the way, we always have all this stuff up for you at LouisianaSports.net. There's a sports betting section at LouisianaSports.net where give you a lot of like odds and prop bets and a lot of different stories that revolve. If you're into sports betting, revolve around there. We do have a piece up there with the a lot of prop bets, but also the initial line for Super Bowl 60, where the Seahawks 4-point favorites and the total 46 is the early line there for Super Bowl 60. You can get it all over at LouisianaSports.net. All right, it is After Further Review. We're glad to have you hanging out with us here. Monday shows are brought to you by Relief Windows. Muso, Tigers in the Pros.
Tigers in the pros. They still bleed purple and gold. They're just really rich now.
And we start in the NFL with championship weekend a day ago. Start with the New England Patriots. They have the most former LSU Tigers. K'Lavon Chaisson, pretty nice day. 5 tackles, couple hits on the quarterback. Almost got home a couple of different times, but nonetheless, definitely impacted the outcome there and put a lot of pressure on Jared Stidham. Excuse me. Kayshon Boutte, just the one catch for 6 yards. He was targeted 6 times, just the one reception. Not his best given the playoffs he's put forth, but also it was just not really conducive to passing the football for the entirety of the second half there in New England. But Boutte and Chaisson, along with Braden Swenson and Will Campbell, they will be heading to the Super Bowl. For what it's worth, Will Campbell, per Pro Football Focus, did not give up a sack in the ball game. I played 64 snaps and did not give up one sack there. And it's good because he was struggling a little bit there in the first 2 rounds. For Omar Spates in the Los Angeles Rams, Omar was the leading tackler for LA. 11 of them in the ball game, including one of those for a loss. Of course, his team falls short. You do see Anthony Bradford had a couple penalties in the game on Sunday night, but anchoring one of the guard spots, and he will also advance into the Super Bowl. Joe Brady, we've been keeping you up to date here on the potential for him to land a head coaching job. He was in Las Vegas on Sunday night for his second interview with the Raiders. That interview wrapped up this afternoon on Monday, per Adam Schefter earlier. It's the second round of interviews around the country. Joe Brady has interviewed for just about all of them, but the odds, the opportunities, I guess I should say, starting to dwindle a little bit. Of the 10 jobs that came open, just 3 remain open. That is Vegas, Buffalo, and Arizona. Of course, Brady has been the offensive coordinator for the Bills for the last 2 seasons in a full-time capacity. That's Tigers in the Pros.
I want to remind you about Parish Construction and Roofing, parishbuilt.com, parishbuilt.com. Tell you every day, do business with someone you know. Our crews are out and about working today. We will never put anybody on a roof if there's a hazard, so basically if it's wet. But because things dried out, it is safe for our crews to get out and get up and do inspections. So if throughout this winter weather you did discover you have any roof issues, we're happy to help you out. Go to parishbuilt.com, parishbuilt.com. Parishbuilt.com is the website. Fill out the form on the homepage. We'll get someone out to your house. As a matter of fact, I actually had a coworker text me earlier today. Said, hey, man, actually, coworker said, how much does it cost to get an inspection to have someone from Parish come out and look? I said, well, it's free. Roof inspections are free. And by the way, if anybody ever tries to charge you for a roof inspection, run the other way. That's number one. But we will always do a free, no obligation roofing inspection. And this coworker saw a water spot on his ceiling. And it's one of the things I tell you about often. Normally, when you start to see the water spot on the ceiling is when you notice you've got a drip that's sort of been accumulating, and that's probably not new. It's probably been accumulating. You're just now starting to see the water spot. It's not always the case, but in a lot of instances it is. But when you have a big deluge like we had Saturday and Sunday, it's when you start to see more of that. But we can, of course, come help with the smallest repair up to the largest roof replacement on a commercial job or a residential job. So bottom line, you have anything going on with your roof, we'd love to help you out. Parishbuilt.com, parishbuilt.com. Do business with someone you know. Parish Construction and Roofing. Just go to parishbuilt.com. Okay, y'all, it is After Further Review. We are glad to have you hanging out with us here. Tiger basketball team lost on Saturday, blew another lead, this time at Arkansas. 85-81 was the final. Disappointing. Tigers led by 4 at halftime, 37-33, but just couldn't hang on in the second half. So now LSU falls to 1-6 in conference play. Interestingly, I've seen some bracketology where they're still a bubble team. I mean, you're going to have to get to 500 in conference play, which means you'll have to go 9-3 the rest of the way. I just don't know how that's even conceptual, like how that's a thing that someone could think could possibly happen for this team. Just their inability to finish. And it's unfortunate, man. Look, if DJ Thomas were healthy, you probably beat A&M in that conference opener. I mean, you lost in a brutal buzzer beater at home against Kentucky. I mean, just those two going your way. And if you're 3-4 in conference right now, it just gives you a dramatically different feel about how you may play out this season. But Tigers in there 1-6 in conference play and probably missing postseason yet again. Hour 3 is next.
After further review.
We're brought to you by First South Farm Credit, FirstSouthLand.com, FirstSouthLand.com. Thinking of buying land, your first call should be to First South Farm Credit. They've done it since 1916, and I know I've been saying it, but I'm going to keep saying it because I know this is going to resonate with people. This is the time of year that is their busiest time of year at First South Farm Credit. And it makes sense because this is the time of year where people, as hunting season is wrapping up, deer season's wrapping up, people will make the determination that they are done hunting on someone else's property. They're done on someone else's lease, sharing a lease. Because for a lot of different reasons. It's not yours. You don't want to kill the big buck because the person who owns the property may want it. And it's just, anyway, people say, I'm not doing that anymore. Well, if you're ready, when you're ready, your first call should be to First South Farm Credit. FirstSouthLand.com. It's FirstSouthLand.com.